December 7, 2014, from FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. It was the St. Louis Rams at the Washington Redskins. St. Louis won the toss and they elected to defer, so the Redskins would take over first. They had the ball on their own 23 to begin their first possession. Colt McCoy hit Pierre Garcon for a 10-yard reception and a first down that brought the ball to the 33. Alfred Morris then picked up a 12-yard run and a first down at the 45. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 45, Colt McCoy hit Pierre Garcon for an 11-yard reception that brought the ball to the St. Louis 44. Now on 2nd and 11 from the 45, Colt McCoy went back to Pierre Garcon for a 13-yard reception. It was now first down on the St. Louis 32 for Washington. Then on 2nd and 13 from the 35, Colt McCoy was intercepted by McLeod. And so it ended up being reviewed, and it was ruled an interception. And so now St. Louis would take over on their own 17 with about 10 minutes left in the first. They were faced with 3rd and 11 on the 16. Shaun Hill then went to Cook for a 16-yard reception and first down that brought the ball to the St. Louis 32. Hill then went to Kendricks. He picked up 11 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the St. Louis 43. Hill then went to Austin. He picked up 9 yards in the first down. No, it wasn't a first down. It was now 2nd and 1. And a run by Mason for no gain, then brought up 3rd and 1 from the 48, an incomplete pass, but wait, there's a penalty against the defense, personal foul, and now it's a first down for the Rams on the Washington 32. They're then faced with a 2nd and 5 from the 27. Shaun Hill found Tavon Austin for a 5-yard reception and a first down that brought the ball to the 22. They then went backwards because of a penalty against the offense on 2 straight plays. And so now it was 1st and 30, and an incomplete pass made it 2nd and 30, and a 2-yard loss made it 3rd and 32. They only picked up 2 yards, and now the punting unit came out, and they punted it from the 4-2. So now the Redskins would take over with 3 minutes left in the first quarter. They had the ball on their own 6, backed up against their own end zone. But on 2nd and 8 from the 8, Colt McCoy hit Alfred Morris for an 11-yard reception and a first down that brought the ball to the 19. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 19, Colt McCoy went to Roberts. He picked up 6 yards shy of the first down, but that play brought the first quarter to a close, and that's why we mentioned it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have talked about that play. But after 1 quarter of play, the game was knotted up at a goose egg. And to begin the second quarter, the Redskins would punt the ball. That was something that they would get used to in this game. There'd be a lot of punts for the Redskins, as you're going to find out. The St. Louis Rams, they now had the ball with just 7 minutes off the clock in the second quarter. They had it on their own 42. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 50, Cunningham picked up 20 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the Washington 30. They were then faced with a 2nd and 15 from the 35 after a penalty on 2nd and 5. And Shaun Hill hit the tight end, Jared Cook, for a 35-yard touchdown pass. They ended up challenging if he broke the plane, and he did. And it was a touchdown. It put the first points on the scoreboard. They actually ended up missing the extra point. How do you miss an extra point? But they did it. It didn't matter. They were still up 6-0, St. Louis over Washington. So now the Redskins would take over with 12 minutes left before halftime. They had it on their own 11. Colt McCoy went to Pierre Garcon for a first down with a 14-yard reception that brought the ball to the 25. But they would end up having a punt from the 17 as they end up losing yards on first down with a 7-yard loss by Morris. And then Colt McCoy got sacked on 3rd and 11 by Barron for a 7-yard loss that made it 4th and 18 as they punted it from that 17. They did. And now the St. Louis Rams would take over on the Washington 30 after a 37-yard return by Tavon Austin, the human highlight reel. So now 9.5 minutes left before halftime. The Rams with the ball on the 30. They then had 2nd and 9 on the 29. Tre Mason picked up 11 yards in the first down that brought the ball to 18. Tre Mason then picked up 12 yards and another first down. And then they were faced with a 3rd and 6, and Shaun Hill was sacked by Murphy and Hatcher. And so now they would end up going for a field goal. Greg Zuerlein would come out to attempt a 28-yarder. It was up. It was good. No good. No good. No good. And it remained 6-0. He missed the chip shot. And he missed an extra point. And so the Rams were just up by 6 with the score. St. Louis 6, Washington 0. So now the Redskins would take over with 5.5 minutes left in the quarter. They had the ball on their own 20, and they go 3 and out. Colt McCoy got sacked on second down by Laurinaitis. And so now the Rams get the ball back on their own 26 with about 3.5 minutes left before halftime. They ended up picking up a first down, but after 4 plays, they would punt the ball. Because on 2nd and 9, Shaun Hill was sacked by Kerrigan. Kerrigan sacked him. And so now they punted it, and now the Redskins would take over on their own 16 with about a minute and a half left before halftime. And they would end up going 3 and out. And so now the Rams would take over on the Redskins 47 with about a half a minute left before halftime. And they would end up getting a first down when on 3rd and 9 from the 46. Shaun Hill hit Cunningham, and he picked up 15 yards to bring the ball to the 31. Hill then went to Stedman Bailey. He picked up 11 yards, and now it was first down on the 20, but with just 2 seconds left, here came Mr. Missing field goals, Greg Zuerlein. He usually is pretty solid, but I don't know. There's something in the air in the dome. No, it was actually, they were outside. It was in Washington. They weren't in the dome. That's what it was. Because it was no good. And it remains still 6-0 going into the locker rooms at halftime with the score St. Louis 6, Washington 0. So now to begin the third quarter, the Rams would start off with the ball on their own 23. They were then faced with a 3rd and 1. Shaun Hill hit Cunningham for a 2-yard reception. The first down that brought the ball to the 34. Then on 2nd and 2 from the 42, Tavon Austin ran it for 14 yards in the first down. That brought it across midfield to the Washington 44. Tre Mason then ran 15 yards for a first down on the 29. Then on 3rd and 8 from the 27, Shaun Hill hit Kenny Britt, and it was now an 11-yard first down reception, and that made it a first down in the red zone on the 16. But their drive would stall there. They went backwards. And they ended up going forwards too, but 2 losses on consecutive plays and a penalty and then a pickup, but out would come Greg Zuerlein, and he made the field goal. It was 34 yards. I kind of jumped the gun there. I got so excited he made a field goal after all those misses. And now the score was St. Louis 9, Washington 0. So now the Redskins would take over with about 7.5 minutes left in the third with the ball on the 28, but they would go 3 and out. Actually, yeah, they went 3 and out. And so now the Rams had the ball, 6 minutes left in the third. They had it on their own 35. Tavon Austin picked up 5 yards, but a holding penalty against the defense, actually. No, it was against the offense, actually. My bad. Against the offense. So now it's 1st and 20. Then an incomplete pass made it 2nd and 20. An 8-yard run made it 3rd and 12 from the 37. Shaun Hill then went to Stedman Bailey. He picked up 36 yards and the first down. So now it was almost a touchdown, but he was ruled down by contact. So now it's 1st and goal on the 1 for the Rams. And that's when Shaun Hill went back to the tight end, Jared Cook, 1-yard touchdown pass, and the score was now 17-0 St. Louis over Washington after they ended up getting the 2-point conversion. They faked the field goal. They faked like they were going to, and Hecker hit Harkey, and that's how they got the 2 points. So now the Redskins would take over with less than 4 minutes left in the quarter. They had it on their own 18. They would end up with a 3rd and 1, and Colt McCoy was sacked by Sims and the rookie Aaron Donald for a 4-yard loss. Out would come the punting unit, and when they went to punt the ball, who would catch it? Of course, the guy who returns the punts. You know what's his name? Tavon Austin, the human highlight reel. What did he do? He ran it back 78 yards for the touchdown off of the special teams punt return, and it was now 24-0 St. Louis over Washington. And so now Washington would get the ball right back after that punt, and they didn't even want the ball. They're like, why do we have the ball? We have to have it. And so with a minute and a half left in the third, they had it on their own 20. It was 2nd and 10 after an incomplete pass. Colt McCoy then hit Moss for a 19-yard reception to bring the ball to the 39. They then got a penalty to bring it back to make it 2nd and 20 on the 29, and Colt McCoy hit Pierre Garcon for a 14-yard reception that brought the third quarter to a close. And after 3 quarters of play, the score was St. Louis 24, Washington 0. So now to open up the fourth, it was 3rd and 6 on the 43 for the Redskins, their own 43, and Colt McCoy was sacked for an 8-yard loss by Robert Quinn and Laurinaitis. And so now the punting unit would come out, and they ended up actually getting a holding call against them when they were punting. They're like, don't do stuff to us, like return things. Actually, it was against St. Louis. My bad. Whoops. So now the Rams, because of the holding penalty, they were backed up against their own 12-yard line to begin this possession. And what happened? Tavon Austin on an end around picked up 18 yards and a first down that brought the ball to the 30. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 35, Hecker ended up getting sacked for a 2-yard loss, but a face mask penalty would make it a first down on the 50. Actually, Hecker had come in because Hill was injured. So that's what happened. Alright, so now they would end up punting the ball. Redskins now got it back. 10 minutes left in the game. They had it on their own 19. Down by 24. On 3rd and 1, Colt McCoy then went to Grant. He picked up 4 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 32. And on 3rd and 10 from the 32, McCoy went to Red. He picked up 14 yards in the first down that brought it to the 46 of Washington for the Redskins. Out of the no-huddle now, Colt McCoy went back to Red. He picked up 16 yards as he brought the ball across midfield to the St. Louis 38 for the first down. Still out of the no-huddle, Colt McCoy then went to Pierre Garcon. And now it's first down on the 20, still out of the no-huddle, and Colt McCoy was sacked by Robert Quinn as he dropped him for an 8-yard loss. So it was now 2nd and 18 from the 28, and an incomplete pass would make it 3rd and 18. Pierre Garcon picked up 7, and they would end up going for it on 4th and 11 from the 21, and Colt McCoy was intercepted by McDonald. He was having it his way. And so now the Rams took over on their own 22 with about 5 minutes left in this game. They would go 3 and out and punt the ball back to the Redskins, who took over on their own 32 with less than 3 minutes left in this game. They ended up picking up a first down, a couple of first downs. Robert Griffin III ended up coming into the game after the 2-minute warning. He ended up getting sacked on a second play behind center, and he was dropped by the rookie Aaron Donald for an 8-yard loss. And then they ended up actually going for it on 4th and 3, and an incomplete pass by RG3 would turn the ball over on downs, and all that was left for the Rams to do was for Shaun Hill to take a knee in the victory formation as this game came to a close with the final score, St. Louis 24, Washington 0, as the Rams blank the Redskins as they actually pitch back-to-back shutouts. That Cardinals pitching. Oh, wait, no, this is football. The Rams, though, they shut out the Raiders 52-0 last week, and now they shut out Washington 24-0, and they now improved to 6-7, just one game below 500. They're 3-4 on the road. The Redskins are now 3-10 on the season. They're 2-4 at home, as they're still. That's actually the win total the Redskins had last year was 3. So will they exceed last year's win total? They have only 3 games left. And the Rams they're not out of it. They're still in the hunt. There's a possibility they could squeeze in as a wild card if they can win out. They still need some help. But in this game, Shaun Hill was 16 for 22. He had 213 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And Colt McCoy was 20 for 32 with 199 passing yards and 2 interceptions. RG3 was 3 for 4. Nice percentage, 75% completions for RG3. Colt McCoy was actually the leading rusher for the Redskins with just 11 yards off of 2 carries, which is pretty sad. And Tre Mason was the leading rusher in the game. He had 20 carries for 66 yards. And then Tavon Austin had 5 carries for 46 yards, along with 14 yards receiving off of 2 receptions. And the leading receiver in the game was Pierre Garcon with 9 receptions for 95 yards. The leading receiver for the Rams was their tight end, Jared Cook, who had 61 yards off of 4 receptions. Kenny Britt had 2 receptions for 52 yards, and Stedman Bailey had 2 receptions for 47 yards. Cunningham had 3 carries for 20 yards rushing, as well as 5 receptions for 28 yards. And Moss had 43 yards off of 3 receptions, and Red had 3 receptions for 36 yards for the Redskins. The game's leading tackler was for the Redskins. Defense was out there quite a bit. Will Compton had 14 tackles in this game. And they actually, Perry Riley and Ryan Clark each had 10 tackles for the Redskins as well, to be in double digits. The leading tackler for the Rams was Trumaine Johnson. He had 8 tackles in this game. James Laurinaitis had 6 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Robert Quinn had 5 tackles and 1.5 sacks. They had 7 combined sacks altogether for the Rams. The other sacks were Hayes, Barron, Donald, and Sims each had 1 sack apiece. And there was 4 sacks for the Redskins. 2 sacks for Ryan Kerrigan. Baker had a sack, and Murphy and Hatcher combined for a sack. They each had a half a sack. And the only interceptions in this game was McDonald and McLeod. They each had 1 interception for the Rams, picking off McCoy. So the Rams win this one. They just dominate this game. And they win with the final score, St. Louis 24, Washington 0.